doctors or that are not married and they're doing these incredible.
Well, there's a myriad of things. I think first of all we have to go back to writer. You are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
And I said, let's pick them up. Let's take them back to Nigeria and let's teach them a different kind of job.
When God created the world, he sat back, looked at it, he was very happy, but then the happiness was not complete because something was missing, and that something was simply the woman. So he made Adam to sleep for a reason, because he knew that women are special creatures. He took his time and adored the women, both internally and externally. At the end of the day, we are who we are, not just a helpmate, not just a neck, but then we are the soul of the man, helping them to actualize, to realize, to do all that is possible. We're not saying they're not head, they'll continue to lead. We will ensure that we make sure they do the right things. The show is The Woman, and I am Elizabeth Abba. In my nature, I've gone all out again to bring you another wonderful lady. She is someone that you and I will want to sit back and listen, because she has a whole lot, and she's achieved a whole lot too, given the very young age. If you're just joining us, you're right on time. I advise you to sit back and have a chat with someone who is leading women in the Apex. She is a national leader for women, APC Women National Leader. Yes, I'm sure you know the person I'm talking about. At a point in her life too, she was Commissioner of Health in Cross River State. She was a special advisor. I know that at a point she was very clinical doctor and did a whole lot. But let's get started by saying welcome to our leader.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You have this positive energy you always exude that I enjoy, be it live, be it on TV. And I keep wondering, with all you do, how do you manage, to have this positive energy around you?
I think it's what you entertain and nurture. That's what grows. So for me, it's all smiles, and whatever I face, I believe we gotta kind of overcome it if I work hard. And if I have a good motive and intention, then I'll succeed at it. So that's just what I face and move on what I'm doing.
All right. I know you are a politician at the moment, and a lot of people think, okay, where did she come from? How did she just jump into politics? And I tell them, look way back in Unical.
Yes. Oh, you got that.
You were a vice president at the point?
I was student union government.
Okay.
I was a vice president of student union government. I was also a chairman of health and HIV/AIDS in the students' parliament in University of Calabar. I've held different leadership positions growing up, right back all the way to school days. I used to be one of the prefects, and then of course I got into the university. I was the treasurer of Cross River State Medical Students Association, and then at some point I went into the parliament, and then I became the student union government vice president, and of course different exposure to politics, even though at that level, and leadership. In my church, I used to be the president of the youth. I held that position for 5 years, the youth fellowship. Yeah.
Every year you get re-elected?
Exactly, every year I get re-elected. So I think on the 6th year, I did two things. Number one, I didn't show up for the election. And it was a deliberate act because I knew the Constitution says that you must be present to be elected. And
I'm wondering, medical students, I have tried to interact with them. They kind of seem very solemn, but you were different. How did you manage? Did you do 10 years instead of 6 years? I mean, you couldn't have been doing
I actually did 6 years, for 6 years. I never failed any exam in the medical school. My colleagues can attest to that. And I had very high grades. In my class, by the grace of God, I was a high flyer. And then for me, I just thought it was too monotonous.
Had to spice it up.
Yeah, like at some point in my 50s, I thought medicine was not what I wanted to do. I wanted a happy life. every day you wake up, you go listen to people's problems. This one dies here, the next one is dying, somebody's crying, someone is in pain. Well, there's some joy when you go through with the patient and they recover and they're going home. You feel happy and the rest of it. And I just thought to myself, is this really what you want to do? Yes, I have the passion for people and I want to serve people and I want to bring succor. But do I want to do it through clinical practice, or do I want to influence lives of people in their millions all at once by making policies that would positively affect them? Indeed, that was how I had to bring in something else, so it can spice up my life. Because just reading, school, lab, home, church, wasn't too much of fun.
You know, they say all work
and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
And then, of course, those of us that went through education, we also believe that the playway method is another good way of learning.
Exactly.
And learning from the medical field and then all of that has actually impacted in your activities today.
It did.
Yes.
It did.
Okay.
It made me very hardworking and very serious with whatever I'm doing, very focused and committed.
I saw a whole lot of it when you were commissioner
Yes.
in Cross River State. And at a point, I was flipping the NCDC page to find out when we're going to be checking in on Calabar, Cross River. It did come, but it took a long time. You were the Commissioner for Health and in charge of COVID at that time. What magic wand did you use to put it? I mean, Cross River State is at a border town.
Yes.
So I expected you to have a very big spike.
So I think we did a couple of things very early in the day. In January, even before we had any case of COVID in Nigeria, we had put people at the airport, at the seaport, all our land borders to screen people who are coming into the state. So we're the very first state in Nigeria that started that. We started it in January. I think that was on the 24th of January. This is following the cases which we have seen in Asia, China and the rest of that, which includes China and other places. So we had to be proactive to it and then really focus on prevention. And then another magic one that happened was the introduction of the face mask. Remember, the face mask was not being used in Nigeria. I remember when I said everybody in Cross River State must wear a face mask as they go into the street. We had a hit back, a pushback, even from the federal government saying, look, we have not said so in PTF, and so you cannot go ahead to use a face mask. And then we tried to explain that we have the primary responsibility of protecting our citizens. We went all the way to the grassroots to enforce it. Good enough, we had a governor who was an expert in that aspect of microbiology, and we equally had the garment factory that produced over 1 million face masks, cloth face masks, and we gave it to them free at the grassroots. So with this means of prevention, together with the hand sanitizer, and then that advocacy for people to continue to wash their hands, and then shutting down our borders. We shut it down, nobody comes into our state. We're not stopping people within the state from moving about and carrying out their businesses, but we're saying we don't want people from other states or other countries to pour into our state. So those were preventive measures which initially didn't go down well, but 6 weeks later the federal government reverted to it when WHO said everybody everywhere in the world should use face masks in public space, and that became the new norm. And I think the PTF, they were nice enough to acknowledge that we went ahead of them, and that was a good innovative step, and they gave us credit for it.
All right, that actually brought a lot of your activity to the federal map.
Yes.
And then I was not surprised when you started vying for the national women leader for the APC. And I tried to follow up. I was like, oh my God, at the point my heart is with God. Is she going to make it? Is she not going to make it? If I was sitting on the other side monitoring the activities,
I can
how was
imagine.
it for you?
Okay, sometimes when you're in the center of the drama, you don't really feel it that much. Really, it was quite new, and it's still new to a lot of persons, to have a very young person come into a political space at the apex of women leadership in the country. It's not been an easy one for some persons to observe. For me, it's just been yet another big opportunity to prove my value and really work hard. Hard work for me is something that one must apply themselves to every other day, and that's what I've been doing. It's been a wonderful experience working with women. It's been really, really very encouraging and wonderful, and I've learned a whole lot. Number one is patience, and then how to accommodate and tolerate people, because one of the leaders once said, if you are a leader, you must be ready to be a trash can where everybody will just come and dump on you and dump on you and dump on you, but you should be able to tolerate them. And for me, it's been a very enjoyable experience. It was really very stressful during the elections, because I was running round the clock with my women. Like, it wasn't
sometimes
easy.
I was thinking some of those things were superimposed. You couldn't have been everywhere at the same time.
I did 3 states in one day. So I woke up in Yobe after the campaign the previous day in Yobe. I came into Abuja, flew from Abuja to Enugu, did campaigns and spoke on the stage in Enugu, met with the chiefs and the people we need to meet with, and then returned back to Abuja and left for Lagos the same night.
Is it spiritual travel?
I know it's not spiritual travel. Like, you have to go with, of course, we were traveling with the president, and that's one thing I give the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, huge kudos for. He defied all odds. You could see, in fact, at some point I was beginning to wonder, is this not what people are talking about? He is 70, right? And he had that energy to keep up. He goes for rallies, leaves wherever the hotel or house or wherever he's staying as early as 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. We are on trucks, screaming, shouting, campaigning till we get to the venue, and then we go ahead to speak to people for hours on ending, standing on your feet, dancing, chanting, hailing, just to keep life in the campaign. And then when you're done with that, you retire back to hold consultative meetings with people all the way till 2 a.m. the next morning. It's so much of a strenuous exercise. How he did not break down, how he never packed up, how he was strong, agile, and doing it beat my imaginations, because most times, even as better in my 30s, I felt it all the way down to my bones.
If I thought of politics, now you're telling me the reasons why I shouldn't be thinking about it.
No, the reasons why you should be part of it.
It's a game, really. Somebody has to win.
So yeah.
Not that the other ones were not good enough.
Sure.
You're there now. But there seems to be a lot of controversies going on at the moment. You want to share a bit of that?
Oh, so there was a recent meeting with the president, and of course, I had initially done a list of over 100 women, including the 9 aggrieved women, and I was asked to reduce the list into badges. So the first badge will be just the state women leaders, and of course the wife of the president injected a few other women to go alongside with the state women leaders. The next badge was supposed to be the legislative arm and the 9 women who are aggrieved. And I tried to explain that to them. We went for the visit. We made an advocacy for everyone, every single woman. At this point in time, we should be pulling together to see how we can go with one front to get a 35% affirmative action in the Federal Executive Council, in appointment of boards and agencies and all of those. And we are just hopeful that this doesn't give a tell-off negatively on the women. Their only grievance is that they were not part of that visit. There were several other women that worked 100 times harder that were not in that room. But the president has said, I run an open door policy, and I'm happy to take you in badges. And they were the next on the line. As I speak to you today, of course, there are women presently that are from the legislative arm, and they are paying a visit to the wife of the president, after which they'll go all together to pay a visit subsequently to the president. He can see everyone at the same time. And if women don't understand this, and we support ourselves and we work together, we cannot achieve much. People will be appointed without being in that room on that day for that visit. So not being there should not give you the grievance to start going to say the women who went there were fake. Meanwhile, those women were real state women leaders that were screened by the villa security, and the president knows most of them. The woman leader from his state, he knows her. If she's a fake woman, he can tell. So when you go putting fallacies out there just because you were not part of one meeting, that they have plans to have you come in subsequently.
Could it be
exactly, it's really sad.
Not proper communication?
We did communicate. I spoke to the zonal woman leader from the Southwest. I communicated with her. And even before they went to press writing what they did, I did call them to say no, 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 because I was given a hint. And I called them. I called the NEC member, Madam Omorige, and they were all together when I called them. I could hear their voices at the background. And I told her, I said, this action is not necessary. Right now, we are trying to see how we can get more women into governance. The minute they see that there is a division, they would capitalize on it. Men will naturally capitalize on it and say, no, 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 I should be the one to represent my state, right? And then you have more men, and again, we don't meet the 35% affirmative action.
We're fighting hard.
And then we are fighting hard to make sure that this, so you see that at the end of the day, they become the losers, right? The next batch, which will even be fewer and will give you more personal touch with Mr. President, is in the next week. And then you begin to fight, and then he says, oh no, I don't want to see you again, or something. So how does that help you?
Okay. Anyway, we're not going to continue the fight. I'm sure that
no, sure, they're going to come around, and we're engaging. Yeah, sure.
When you mentioned Mr. President, I quickly remember what's going on at the moment. A lot of people have given him kudos for the fuel subsidy removal. You know, it's going to help our economy. But then there is another one setting in, which is the 8,000 naira, you know, proposed for 12 million families. What's your take on that? Is there something we're not understanding?
So I think maybe the way it was framed and sent out might not have gotten the message out the way it should have gone out, right? And as we speak today, I'm happy that the president has called for a review of the 8,000, because he's a very responsive president who hears the yearnings of his people and is ready to make adjustments that sits in well with everyone. One thing we must understand is that Nigeria has over 130 million poor persons.
That's huge.
And this is by the statistics from the UN and of course the Bureau of Statistics and the World Poverty Clerk and all of that. Now we also have those who they say are in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty, so they can't have about 1.9 or that's $1.09 a day. They live under that a day. For a person who cannot even afford, let's say $2 a day. So let's just give it a 1,600 or 1,800 a day, right? At best situations. For that kind of a person, being given 8,000 naira to do a business or boost their little petty trade, it goes a long way. It does go a long way. As an individual, I have gone around marketplaces in my own state to just dash the leaf seller, the vegetable seller, 10,000, 8,000, 5,000.
He didn't come to my shop.
And you could feel the joy. The next time you go to the market and you see the same woman, her table is filled with more vegetables, right? And she's building more on her capital. Now, government is providing palliative in several ways. The president declared a state of emergency on food security. He's providing free fertilizers to farmers across the country. That's a huge amount of money. In healthcare, there will be subsidy for people. In education, he has already mentioned scholarships. He has already mentioned student loans.
Perhaps if
for
you are looking
students.
for transport, since
Good.
it has to do with fuel.
Of course, one of the things which I believe will be coming on board soon is to find ways to support the transportation system across the country. So subsidizing transportation in government, public buses and the rest of it. Of course, in the UK, you can enter into a black cab from Heathrow Airport to central London and you will pay close to 80 or 90 pounds. And you can still enter the underground train station from Heathrow through the Piccadilly all the way to central London and you pay just £4. Can you see the difference? So government has subsidized that public transportation.
And that's what we're
And
looking
this
for.
is what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu put out as part of his action plan. He's trying to set his government. He's trying to bring in ministers and the rest of that. There's so much he can do as one person, right? He's trying to put together his team. Once his team comes in place, you'll begin to see policies being rolled out with full implementation that will bring succor and bring the... So this 8,000 naira is just one tiny bit in a whole package that is being put out by the president to Nigerians. So for me, the answer to Nigerians is little patience. Just a little patience. Government is taking shape and we'll hit the ground running.
All right, I'm sure Nigerians are listening. We'll try to be patient. So then, women, we still want to know, since you are the apex for us, what's the water like for us in terms of actualizing our 35%? We want to see more of ourselves.
Well, like I used to tell people, you don't take coal to Newcastle. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our dear president, he is a promoter of women, beginning with his wife, who holds the record of being the first female to have been through the Senate for 3 consecutive times. No woman has had that record before. So charity began at home. He ran with a deputy governor who was a woman when it was not even fashionable to do so. The president also went a step further to put the head of judiciary, head of civil service in Lagos as far back as a woman. This is a time where women were not even seen in political space, maybe 1 or 2 big names and the rest were just pushed to the back burner. He still went that far to do that for women. So with those kind of antecedents, it's easy to tell. Already he has made some appointments into his cabinet. He has appointed 10 special advisors so far. Out of the 10, 4 are women. So we even have 40%, which is beyond what we are begging for.
What will happen if we get 50%?
I think nothing would actually happen. It will be beautiful because we'll be like our counterparts in Rwanda, Kenya, and other African countries, and even outside Nigeria.
All right, I've been talking with you a long while in a political, space. I want to know, you're first and foremost a public health expert, a clinician, and all of that. Do you still remember how to use the needle and syringe if need be?
Oh yes. If you recall, I brought the practice into being a woman leader. For the first time, a woman leader goes from one state to the other, holding free medical outreaches for thousands of people, and I consult myself with other doctors who are in the team. So it's like practicing while you're running politics so that you don't get rusty and forget how to prescribe Panadol.
No, you cannot. All right, so what do you do for relaxation?
Travel.
I recall that.
I just love to travel.
You don't get tired?
I don't. As long as I pack my bags and move, I'm fine. And maybe that was one of the things that helped during the campaign. So every time I pack my bag and I go to a new state, I went to states I'd never been to since I was born. just as part of the campaigns for these elections. So some states I was getting there the first time, that joy to see new places, new people, get new friends, and all of that. For me, I love to travel, and this was just it.
So I also know that you're a very homely person. How do you combine managing your home and doing all of this without breaking down?
I think it's God's grace, and then just having the right people around you who understand the role you play, and they are ready to fit in and cover up for any lacuna, because it cannot be perfect, but they're ready to work and help you cover up the lacuna. So with all of that, you just begin to flourish, and you're happy doing what you do.
Thank you. I think it's just a blessing to be a Nigerian and African, because our extended family,
they have a full support system. So if you're not there, there's a father, there's a mother, there's a partner, there's an auntie, there's an uncle. Someone's going to stop by and say, hey, why are you not sleeping? It's 8 o'clock already. It's just everybody's business, and that way they help to cover up for where the holes are.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and we'll keep a tab on you and ensure that we keep updating ourselves with what you're doing, because that will actually be a way of ensuring that you continue to, write positive things on your journal. Until next week when we come here again, it's been The Woman, and my name again is Elizabeth. And by the way, we've been talking with our National Woman Leader, APC. Bye.